I feel like I should say testing. Hi, I'm Patty Monk, and I'm going to talk about enticing faculty into classroom technology. John Mayer helped me with the title, and probably enticing is the right word. They don't all come willingly, I'm afraid. I just like this new XP PowerPoint. It's so cute. A number of us went to Bricks and Bytes in Washington, D.C. I guess it was about a year ago, February. The library director, myself, and 2 faculty members. The technology is in the library at right now. And we were really impressed with the smart lecterns and this kind of ensemble. And we were also impressed that they had professors showing how they use the equipment in class. And that was one of the things that our professors were very interested in seeing, so that it would give them ideas on how they could use the equipment themselves. Both of the professors also teach trial practice and litigation, so they were very interested in the courtrooms also. We wanted to meet the presentation needs of the faculty, even though some of the faculty didn't know they had any presentation needs to be met. We bought a couple LMOs, the visual presenters. We had VCRs. We bought a smart board, and that Smart Kid Foundation, it's almost like a discount because you get an automatic 20% off practically, just when you fill out the form. So that was good. And then they had another one that gave the law people a discount too, a special discount that was even more. We're a Microsoft campus, so we have all versions of PowerPoint. We have all these different versions of PowerPoint. And we also have a lot of professors that still love WordPerfect. So there's a couple of professors that are using Corel presentations. And then we bought some Hope Hodge software that our local vendor found for us, so that they could see on their screen what was showing up on the document presenter and on the VCR, because our screen isn't so nicely positioned as it is in this room. The architect that did our school, even though it's only about 5 years old, it looks very pretty up at the front, but he pushed the screen forward, and it sort of makes things harder to do. Our goal is to have more of the faculty using equipment, and we thought it would make teaching easier for the professor and perhaps more interesting for them. And it would also appeal to students' visual learning styles, because so many of the students that are at law school now, they grew up with Sesame Street, and then they went on to MTV, and they're just visual people. And also we needed to justify the money that we spent on the equipment, so we needed to have them use it. Because the dean would say, "Oh, you want to add that? That's kind of expensive." So we tried some different ways, and we sort of did demonstrations. So the electronic services librarian, who was very personable, did some demonstrations. And one time he had one faculty member come, and then he had 2 adjuncts come. And the adjunct, one of the adjuncts that came, had a Mac laptop, and he mostly came so he could check out the cabling. So we just needed to do something to increase the turnout and just turn things around for ourselves. And I thought, well, if we have faculty demonstrate this to other faculty, they're more likely to come. So one of our civil pro professors, who also teaches litigation sequence 1, who went to Bricks and Bytes, she said she would do a segment. One of our legal research and writing instructors also said she would. And then our other litigation professor, he had a student who was using they were using the smart board in litigation. And that was really a big hit. I did a little demonstration. It turned into a demonstration of the smart board. It was supposed to be a demonstration of resources on the internet that they could use in their litigation class, like Oklahoma jury instructions that are on the state website. But it really turned into a demonstration of the smart board. And they just wanted to know, oh, hit it here, hit it there, you know. Then after class, can I play with it too? So that was pretty good. And it seems what the professors really wanted was concrete examples of classroom use, because I would see them in the halls, or they'd have a computer problem or something, and then they'd say, well, you know, that equipment sounds very interesting, and I would like to use it sometime. But I don't know that that time would have ever come. So seeing some of their peers use the equipment, I think, was pretty effective. And we had a good turnout. We had some considerations. We wanted a number of participants, so it wasn't just one professor. And we wanted some different courses so that we had a little bit of variety, and that people could find somebody or something that they could empathize with and go from there. So we had some logistics and some timing problems, because I thought it would be wonderful to do it on a Friday afternoon before the faculty meeting. Faculty meeting's once a month. It starts at 3 o'clock, and I thought that time between 1 and 3, they might not have something that they really needed to do at that time. We might have almost sort of a captive audience. So the first month, they had one of my demonstrators had a promotion and tenure committee meeting right before the faculty meeting, so that was out. The next month, they canceled the faculty meeting because they were going to have a faculty retreat off campus. So I thought the semester is just going to be gone, and we're not going to have done anything. So we picked a Friday afternoon and just hoped for the best. And then we had pizza as a little added inducement. And it turned out to be very well attended. They were just curious. Our first presenter was Karen Evie, and she's one of our legal research and writing instructors. And she had used the ELMO, the visual presenter, extensively in her legal research and writing class. Can you do the video? No, thank you.
Something like this. Then I'll put them together in small groups for 10 or 15 minutes and let them work out a better version with their combined brain power. And then the final version that you see here is the collaborative effort to create, in this case, speech. And I just put it up here, and this blue marking is my marking on here. We just copy class, the students give input about what they see and the exercise is good, and what they see or they don't see, they would have put in themselves. And we do that several times, and we get a very wide variety of answers to the same question. We can discuss them all, or as many as there are, rather than taking the time to pursue on the board and coaching. But those would be good examples of what you're trying to teach out. On the textbook, you'll see
no, just go on for a little bit.
Pretty much demonstration pages where they show here's the headnotes, here's the syllabus, the caption. That information from. Here's where the headnotes are matched up to in case and that sort of thing. But I kind of get the feeling that when they read, they don't really study those examples in the books so much. So I always try to go over that, either shiny thing back here is the old-fashioned transparency method. And now that I've got the Elmo, I can just take copies and paste these and put them up here and show them. And these are small. They're just apple-sized photocopies. And so in preparing your stuff for the Elmo before the Elmo, you probably will want to have the time, take a little more time to either load it up on the Xerox machine, or maybe even better, we need to download it and then make it yourself into, say, 20, 24 point type, and in the size margins you want so it'll show up well on the phone. This just happens to be an Apple photocopy in case that I want something. Still can be done at point a little better than if they just had to read it in the book. And you can take whatever input you happen to have and write on your output. So I'm showing you here concept of the parallel site is very new to them, so I'm showing them, here's the regional reporter site, here's the parallel site where they're not using the first semester of all citation information. The point of this is the basic syllabus, the synopsis of the case. Don't quote aside from that. Same thing with the headnotes. Showing them the very part. Headnote number 1, headnote number 6. Here's the topic. This is the key number. That thing is a little key. And I just think it helps them understand that concept better than trying to read this very dry text about how to do this stuff and then try to go apply that themselves. So this one particularly has its syllabus by department, which of course you can cite and refer to, unlike web syllabus. So I found that I'm having more and more success getting them not to cite and quote headnotes all the way. There are still a few miscreants out there.
No, they can go on.
Nope.
Yeah.
Never tried before, but
Okay. One of the things that I talked to Steve Smith here about the document presenter, because one of the things that Karen didn't like and that they don't like is that you have to move the paper back up and down so that you can see the whole thing. But Steve explained to me that TV is and then these screens, it's a horizontal world for them, even though the 8.5 by 11 paper is a vertical world, so that there's a little bit of a mismatch there. Because she kept saying, well, I read the manual and I still can't get it to do that. Well, it just doesn't do that. So that was one of the things that that the person has to adjust to. And the way that they've been adjusting to that is having the students, or if there's something they're presenting, if they download it, they can make it wider, they can change the width, or if they have the students type it up, they can have them do it in landscape instead of doing it, in the regular vertical sense. By the next one.
And sure enough, it even mentions it by name. Our decision in the first case is show them, if you're anything you want to do online, it's show guys e-sites, right? Took also screenshots, printouts of what it looks like to do it online. And show them how much easier it was than online, and shows it's been overruled right off the bat, so you don't have to go through all you basically did for the do your site checking online, but you can't do basic things. And then the page for the site to under different books and different tags and tabs and how you can limit the citations with particular headnotes and that sort of thing. So I think it's a little more dynamic than just seeing the changes in the book.
Can we take a pause? Okay. Our next professor is Patricia R, and she teaches civil procedure, and she teaches the first part of litigation sequence 1, where they do the motions and the discovery, and they get the evidence that they'll present in trial, second semester of litigation. And she was voted University Teacher of the Year 2 years ago. And she uses my cousin Vinny to talk about expert testimony and admissibility of expert testimony witnesses. So I need to change again. Oops. Let me just fast forward maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Making the numbers statement of material facts and that sort of thing, which I'm not familiar with doing. And I wasn't real satisfied with it.
Cut Karen off here. Well, we can just let her talk. We'll let Karen talk some more.
But I prefer, rather than having to look at something, and also depends on what page you're on. If you're on a very last page, look at something all humped over and stuff, it's really difficult to see. This is not too bad. But I prefer, if I've done this one, and if I'm thinking I can do it, to either type it up myself, or as I did in this case, download it from a website and take out the whole start and ending pages and make the font as large as I want it to be. And I can just put it up here and back out. Here's your remote to do this, by the way. I've never found the remote to be really useful for myself because you have to be standing right here to move your pages around. So you like needless water sample to do that. This is the way I use it. I think in other circumstances it might be really, but I think it shows a better, plus you can write on it in a way you can't necessarily write on those and I'm going to show you 8 pages something to that's why I highlight on this things, and I see that shows really making a video and then point at it. You can also, if you want to run the crowd, have this facilitate so you can sit there and go like whatever. Freebie from the source conference stuff. Battery left at 2 days right now, so this is it for later.
And then the next thing she's going to talk about is the three-dimensional part.
All the names. And I wish I could figure out a way to incorporate that in what I do. Most of our teaching is fairly two-dimensional.
supposed to be some kind of expert in automobiles, is that correct? Is that correct?
You please answer the council's question.
No, I hate him. Can I have permission to treat Ms. Vito as a hostile witness?
You think I'm hostile now? Wait till you see me tonight.
Did you know each other?
Yeah, she's my fiancée.
So explain hostility.
This witness. Hip-Hop Foundation, I'm not aware of this person's qualifications. I'd like to volunteer this witness as to the extent of her expertise.
Brandon, Mr. Charlie, you may proceed.
Oh,
I know. Well, I'd rather sit and watch my presentation than hear any of the rest of the speakers myself. But this is what I used to, at least I used it last year to teach expert admissibility in evidence. And I just showed about however long this examination, this is my cousin Vicky, this is the girlfriend of the lawyer who's trying his first case, 4 times to pass the bar, and he's a big bumbling idiot. But by the time he gets his girlfriend on the stand as an automotive expert, he's really moving. And anyway, I showed about 7 or 8 minutes of her testimony, and we then proceeded to discuss how the factors for the admissibility of expert testimony would be applied under the Dahlberg case to this situation. And we had a great discussion based on watching the movie because they got interested in there's something concrete they could do. Now, I will turn to PowerPoint. Obviously you all know how to use videos. It's just a matter of putting it in here and putting the projector on. The only further thing I'll say is that I have had some problem, depending on the quality of the videotape, with the sound. Even since they put in this new sound system, if the videotape is old, you have to turn it all the way up to the very top volume, and even then, everybody has to be completely still and quiet to hear. Now, this came out just fine because this is a newer movie, but something like an older talking heads video is really hard to hear, so you might want to look at something more modern if you really need this.
Next, she's going to talk about PowerPoint.
There are a couple slides from different things that I've done to illustrate a couple of ways use this. This is essentially just like using a blackboard, but you just don't have to keep your hands dirty, and it's much more legible for the students. So PowerPoint is most ideally set up for if you want to just lecture. If you know that you're going to be lecturing for maybe 15 minutes or more, which doesn't happen that often, but sometimes, the first time I used this, for example, was during that Phi Delta Phi, when the students all buy cans and so they have music and getting called on. And I know that every student in my class is going to have a can in front of them. And so I know I'm pretty much going to have to lecture that night. So I developed it for that night. And then this got them into, they were so excited about it that they actually volunteered and able to kind of have a discussion, but I was pretty much counting on having to lecture. But I find out that I know how to do PowerPoint when I go to legal presentations. I really just like the people that have something to look at, whether it be PowerPoint or whether they write on a board or whether they get a handout or, you see like an overhead, just a plain clear overhead. It's just a break up of the monotony because most people really aren't that interesting to listen to for more than 10 minutes. I mean, let's face it, the world is not that big. Except, maybe for Amy's Garoppolo. So here, and I've cut a lot of slides out here, I was not going to bore you to death with this open discovery, but here I put the pre-December 1st, 2000 rule, which is basically that you could have obtained any matter relevant to the subject matter involved in the pending action, which was a very broad, sweeping scope of discovery that was held not to be limited to just what was in the pleadings. I'm showing you some different backgrounds that you can use on the screen. I just used blue and now it's clear. You can have these points come in one at a time. If you have them all come in at once, then nobody focuses on what you're saying. They're all writing down all the points at once. So you can stop at each point and elaborate, go on about it, ask the students about it, ask them why is discovery expensive, does it contribute to legal fees or lawyers, how to delay case resolution. And at each one of these points you can stop and have a discussion or say more yourself. You don't have to have every single thing that you want on the screen, but this is just a starting point or a jumping off point for the discussion. Then I go to the new amendment, which is currently effective in federal court. Parties may obtain discovery regarding any matter that is relevant to the claim or defense of any party, and for good cause the court may order the previous scope of discovery, but that's not automatically available now under party-initiated discovery. I then went to one of the cases of the book. This is skipping numerous slides in the time, by the way. I just want to show you something you can do with this. This was a case by a former employee of Diana Ross, who sued her for defamation because Diana Ross had written a letter to employers, her putative employers, falsely implying that this employee was fired for an inadequate personal work ethics. And then I found a picture of Diana Ross on the internet, which I was able to copy and put into the presentation. You know, legally it adds nothing to the presentation, obviously. It's just a way of perking people up and making them more interesting. I know it's probably possible to download a little clip of her singing, like, Touch Me in the Morning or something. But I'm not sufficient enough to do that. But hopefully at some point I will be, because I'm always tempted to break out into the song myself. I never have yet. Certainly maybe, but it's a struggle. Here's how I try to elucidate some of the points in the case on the relevance of discovery. And here is where I call them a student. I'm like, what was the scope of discovery? This was like 10 slides ago. And they'll, they won't know, more help out, and then I'll put it back on the board. This was the scope of discovery at the time of the case. And then say, okay, well, why is Diana Ross's net worth relevant to this case? It has nothing to do with whether she should pay the claim. And so then we discuss that and what is relevant to me. And so you don't have to have every single thing on the screen. It can be a jumping off point. And students just like to see this. I mean, I know it's really basic. It keeps them sort of from falling asleep. The next case in the book was against Sears Roebuck, and I happened to be able to find a picture of Sears for interest. And you can have these points come in from the right or the left. You can have them come in with sound effects. Then we talked about the plaintiff's document request in this case. And I put it's in the book, but there's something about them being able to look at it on the screen that, how students hate to actually read it and more closely. And of course you can say, well, it's on page such and such, and they'll all look at it, but if it's up here, they can really focus on the language you're trying to make them focus on, and then make them read it and then ask, well, put yourself in the position of a Sears lawyer, what objections would you make to this thing? And of course, they know it first, and then eventually one person has an idea, and everyone else has an idea. And that's the way it talks about how the rules allow various kinds of objections or not. Here was something I used from complex litigation, where we were talking about the typicality requirement of class actions in the general telephone versus talking case. At the very end of the discussion of the case, I had Justice Stevens, who wrote for the majority in that case, believe it or not, had one disposition on the case, which is he would have remanded it, and I had a picture of him reviewing it. And I had Justice Berger, who concurred and dissented, arguing that the case should be, the class claim should be dismissed outright because of the evidence that's been introduced to trial. And in the disc that I wrote over here that got destroyed, I had really interesting sound effects when those things came in. They were whooshing and typewriters, but they're gone. The rest of the business world.
Now she's going to talk about PowerPoint and say things that I could never say.
And there's a really funny PowerPoint presentation that you can get on the internet where somebody has taken the Gatsby address and put it into a PowerPoint presentation, and it really rapidly illustrated a beautiful, moving, elegant speech, and destroy it by putting it in bullet points. And there is some valid, there's a very valid in there, but on the other hand, like I said, most of us aren't able to listen, and we're really not that interested to listen to. And just to have something to break up the monotony and focus the attention is helpful. I find it helpful in my own personal case, let alone a Gen Xer, just used to watching TV all the time and getting all of the information from the internet and so forth.
Okay, give you a pass.
Okay.
Oh, okay. PowerPoint's really old hat to us. I mean, we've seen days of it, but it's not quite as old hat to the law school professors. And they go away to another school, and it's like PowerPoint sweeps school, sort of one school and then another school. And then there's people who brought her Wall Street Journal articles and said, oh, PowerPoint's passé. But it really isn't passé, and the law school students really do enjoy it, and they do like to see it and hear it at the same time. It's just two ways of learning, and it reinforces what the professor's saying. So, do it again. So just like, yeah.
Slide down. Just new slide. Choose this is what I meant. This is the title slide. This is just your standard bullet slide. You can put in, if you are proficient, you have something on the table that you want to put in, you can use this slide. Here's what I used for the Diana Ross picture, something like that. So take your normal slide. You just click on it, more points. Really slow here. More points. All right. You type real slow. That's what I'm talking. And then you could. I don't have it set up. It'll take probably longer than you want to sit there. But you can. If I had WordPerfect open, I had a document open where I already had notes in there. You could just go down here and open your presentation and then cut and paste into it. But yeah, you have to review each slide from material that you have. So.
Okay, can I pause it again? Okay. Yeah, that's She was talking about the Gettysburg Address in PowerPoint, and I couldn't resist going to the page and looking at it, and it does sort of suffer being put into PowerPoint. And then they put like 7 years, and he made it into a graph, which really didn't convey the point he was trying to make, but it's a pretty interesting way to do it. But there is power in PowerPoint. Just seeing it as well as hearing it is very effective. And this Robert Cialdini, he wrote Influence, Science, and Practice. And he did a study with a couple other professors, and they had 3 groups. And it was a fictional football player applicant who was going to get a scholarship. So they showed his football statistics from high school to the first group, and it was just typed onto a page, a paper. And they gave him like 4.5 out of 7 points. Then the second group, they showed his statistics, and they used bar graphs. And this group gave him 5 points out of 7 points. And the third group, they did a PowerPoint presentation with bar graphs. And they gave him 6 out of 7 points. So it really changed how he was evaluated. Then they picked another 3 groups, but these people were all familiar with sports statistics, so they knew more what was going on. So the first group got the typewritten paper again, and they gave the guy 4.5 out of 7 points. The second group shows their knowledge. They looked at it with the bar graphs on the piece of paper, and they gave him 4.5 out of 7 points. And then the third group of these sports enthusiasts saw the PowerPoint presentation with the bar graphs, and the bar graphs kind of growing, and they gave him 6 out of 7 points. So it can be effective, and it can be a way of selling things or showing things. And also sometimes it's almost like people speak different languages, because in the library we just went to the Endeavor library system, and it was really a gift, a monetary gift given to the main library, and we're sort of the law library tag-alongs. But we wanted to be able to customize it ourselves without going through the database person at the main campus technology. Although we were happy that for the main library to do that, because we have separate databases. So our library director, with some input from our systems librarian and myself, wrote a 3.5-page justification for doing this, And our academic vice president was just in the process of leaving to go to another school, so she called up the head of IT, campus technology, and said, well, what do you think about this? And he says, oh, let's just leave it the way it is. And so that was that. So we weren't too pleased about that. So the systems librarian and I went over and we showed it to the Unix administrator over at Campus Technology, because we had talked with the server manager in Kentucky, and they have a consortium of 17 libraries, and the IT person there that manages the Unix server gave each of the systems librarians their own login and let them customize it any way they wanted to. So we knew it had been done, and this was an IT person who did it, so we felt that might have a little bit more credibility with our campus people. So we went over, and instead of giving them 3.5 pages of verbiage, which apparently they weren't interested in, we opened the manual up and we Xeroxed the directory with the paths, and then we gave them the email address and the telephone number of the Unix person. And I just went over and we showed it to Jerry, who does the Unix, and he said, oh, I can do that. And he says, he says, and this doesn't have anything to do with the main library's database. You're not going to change anything because that's in a different directory. That's over somewhere else. I said, yes, that's true. And he says, and you don't want to get at the root. No, we don't want to get at the root. We wanted to get at the application. So that clarified, took about 3 minutes. And then he says, well, this is really a political problem. You need to talk to somebody else. He didn't even say the person's name. It's just somebody else. So we went across the hall and we talked to somebody else. And we showed him this, and he looked at it, and he says, and I just crossed out the XX and put law DB database. And he says, oh, this is just the law database. I said, yes, just the law database. We just want these 2 directories so we can do the INI files and the config files and the HTML. And you can talk to this IT person in Kentucky. And he said, oh, so hopefully this was last week, right before I came, so I hope when I get back that I have better news and that they're convinced, because it seemed like it's a diagram that made it so much clearer to them than our 3.5 pages of verbiage. And PowerPoint's a lot of fun to use. It takes sort of the fear out of public speaking for a lot of people and turns it into the fun of making a little animated presentation. And then there's some peer pressure too, because a lot of people are doing pure PowerPoint, and oftentimes on some of the evaluations it says, how was the person's graphics? So if you don't have any graphics, you certainly get like a 0 for that, or at least an NA, not applicable. The next film clip that I wanted to show is one of the litigation students who was using the smart board for her closing argument.
On 90, but if you just do the 20 points, the board can pretty much tell where you are at all times. So before you do any presentation, you have to orient the board, and you have to orient it by pressing the exact one. You can't go out of order or it messes things up and you've got to start over. So now it's ready. Obviously, this first part you can do without ever, you can just do it on your laptop without ever showing anybody what you're doing, so they don't see your messy work. It's really interesting. You can finally not sit down, and you don't have to be behind anything. You can actually talk to people and move around. And I can't memorize anything if I'm in front of a crowd, so I need it. Unlock the case of the truth. This is my closing argument. And this is just a normal PowerPoint presentation. You can pick little things with neat graphics to do it and bring things in at any rate. Norm Holland's where his closing was about a shooting, and he had everything come up with these bullets. You know, the sound, boom, boom, boom. So it came but they can come up in any way you want to, fade in, fade out. Now we're unlocking the truth. I really won't bore you with the whole thing, but it's just so interesting the way things come in. And if you can, at least for me, I don't have to have any notes in front of me. Go walk around. If you walk in front of it, you will turn blue. Yes, you will turn blue. If you kick the board, you will disorient it. And you will have to start over. You kick it or move it. So you have to be sure it's just where you want it to be, and that you're not moving. I downloaded, or I actually copied and pasted from the Oklahoma Supreme Court Network all of the jury instructions I thought were important. My jury was sitting a lot closer to the board than you are, so they could see it pretty well. And if I wanted to do that, I could actually make PowerPoint go in and grab the text I want you to see in particular, pull it out. But I haven't done that. So let's say I want you to, something that's, here, intent was a big issue. Our client had no intent to hurt anybody, so we had to say the elements of liability were intent. You can circle it, draw big arrows, no intent, and then as soon as you go to your next slide, it's gone. You can do it in all colors. So if you were actually in trial, you had like a map of a crime scene or something, your witness was wanting to say that they were here, and that the victim was over here, and there was a tree in their line of sight. But you could do this and then press print, and it would print out the color copy if you had a printer on it. You could put a witness label on it, or an exhibit label on it, and it could go to the jury. So this is the way to pull out things in writing that you really want them to see. And I was, just being a student, was amazed by this and wanted to. So I wrote all over this in my trial. Arrows and crossed out the things that they didn't prove that they had to prove.
Okay. Then we did some follow-up too. We did some follow-up. We did some one-on-one training if they wanted it with the equipment, either the Elmo or the smart board. And we also have PowerPoint classes, or if they already know a lot of the PowerPoint and just want to add something like a file or something, we'll go to their office and we'll show them how to do it. We also had some books on reserve if they preferred to do it that way and just take the book home or take the book to their office, whatever they wanted to do. And we were also keeping statistical records on the usage of the equipment so we could sort of justify what we had done. We also wanted to do another session either in August right before school started or right after school started with some different professors that teach different classes and see how they're using it, because that does seem to do more when they can see what the other professors are doing and how they use it, and they have a lot more credibility with the faculty. So that's really what we've been doing. So I don't know if you have any questions or if there's any suggestions that you would like to make about how you do things that might help all of us and how we get the faculty more interested in doing things. Yes?
What percentage of your faculty
I guess PowerPoint and Corel, maybe like 25% right now. It's being used, the PowerPoint's being used a lot by the litigation students and the smart board. The professors for litigation have really been encouraging them to do that. And I think it seems the ones that use the smart board and the PowerPoint seem to get a little bit better grades than the ones that don't. And we've also had some students make presentations off campus at attorney groups, where they'll invite a student from our university and a student from, say, OU or something. And they've gotten a good response, too, when they've taken some of this equipment off campus and done a presentation. So it's been good for them. Yes?
What kind of support do the students get for their preparation
We usually set it up either in the library, one of the rooms in the library, one of the seminar rooms, or we'll set it up over in one of the classrooms, depending, what the students would like. And then we leave the equipment there for the afternoon, and we'll show them how to use it. And we like to do it in groups of 4, so we'll have plaintiffs, the 2 representing the plaintiffs and the 2 representing the defendants, and go over the equipment for them all at one time. And then we'll leave them, once they understand how to use it, we'll leave them to practice by themselves. And so, and that seems to have been working pretty well. As far as the professors go, if they just tell us when they'd like to do it, we'll do it one-on-one with them.
Was the presenter standing behind the screen?
Pardon?
In those video clips, was the presenter?
That is a problem with the architect who built the building. The front looks very nice because it has this tiered look, but it affects where we can put the screen. And that's one of the things that we're looking at right now, is whether how we're going to change this.
Do all the classrooms have that kind of equipment available?
No, they don't. That's the only one that has it built in, but we have portable equipment that we'll set up in any of the classrooms or the seminar rooms. And we also have laptops that we will furnish too, so if they want to go into a different classroom, or if they have their own laptop, they can use that too. And we have all the laptops set up alike, so that no matter which one they get, it's the same. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming.